I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and honestly, Tekken 8 sometimes feels less like a fighting game and more like a giant guessing simulator. And before people instantly get mad, I'm not saying Tekken takes no skill. Obviously it does. Tekken is still one of the hardest fighting game franchises ever made. You know, the movement is difficult, the matchups are insane, the execution could be brutal, the knowledge checks never end, but at the same time, modern Tekken also feels more overwhelming and mentally exhausting than ever before. And I think a huge reason for that is because Tekken 8 constantly forces players into situations where it feels like you're just guessing. You know, it's like a big casino game, guessing on pressure, guessing on strings, guessing on heat, on 50-50s, on knowledge checks, guessing against characters you barely even understand. And when you compare Tekken to games like, say, Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, I honestly think that Tekken might be the most stressful and mentally draining mainstream fighting game out right now. Now, I recently made a video on why Tekken 8 is one of the most rage-inducing fighting games ever made, but in this one I just want to focus on the casino-like guessing game 50-50 elements of Tekken that really makes people mad. Now, before we get into this video, if you guys don't know me by now, I'm Mr. Frosty Flames, but you can call me Mike. We do anything gaming news, reviews, playthroughs, analysis, and anything FGC related, period. So if you like that style of content, be sure to hit that sub button and help me get closer and closer to 2,000 subscribers. That's a huge milestone for me, so I'd love if you join the Legion and hit that subscribe button. Anyways, let's get back to the video. Now, to be fair, Tekken has always been difficult. That's nothing new. Even older Tekken games had stuff like insane matchups, characters with giant move lists, they had difficult movement, you need legacy knowledge, and sometimes they even thrown in some weird gimmicks from time to time. But older Tekken also felt a little slower and more controlled at times. There was still lots of chaos, obviously, but a lot of players felt like they had more room to breathe defensively. But Tekken 8 feels very different than that, because now the game constantly pushes aggression, and the heat system is the biggest reason why. Because that heat system completely changed the pace of Tekken, because now almost every match feels explosive immediately. Because once heat activates, suddenly pressure increases, chip damage becomes scary, plus frames become overwhelming, and players start forcing non-stop offense. And honestly, sometimes it feels like the game actively discourages slowing down, and that creates a constant feeling of panic during matches, because in older fighting games, defense often felt more stable, but in Tekken 8, it sometimes feels like one wrong guess completely destroys your momentum instantly. And that's where the guessing game feeling starts becoming really noticeable, because once certain characters start applying pressure in heat, the game can quickly turn into like a low, mid, throw, power crush, heat smash, sidestep, armor move, frame trap, and if you guess wrong, half your health bar just disappears. And honestly, this is one of the biggest complaints I keep seeing from modern Tekken players. The 50-50 situations feel brutal now, especially with how aggressive this game became. A lot of matches just feel like, you know, guess correctly or die. It feels like you're just running a lottery or you're spinning the slots at a casino. And again, yes, fighting games always involve guessing to some degree, that's normal, but Tekken feels uniquely stressful because of how many layers of guessing are happening at once. Say in Street Fighter, the roster is smaller and the interactions are usually easier to understand visually. In Mortal Kombat, there's definitely guessing too, especially in games like Mortal Kombat X, like where it's very aggressive, but the pace and mechanics still feel more readable sometimes. Tekken throws a ton of stuff at you. They have giant move lists, stances, strings, launchers, weird animations, legacy mechanics, heat pressure, knowledge checks, and it throws all of that at you constantly. And suddenly it stops feeling like, you know, I'm adapting, and it starts feeling like, okay, I hope I survive this. And to be honest, I think the gigantic roster is one of the biggest reasons why Tekken feels overwhelming now, especially for the new player coming in, because learning Tekken is already difficult enough. Now combine that with dozens of characters, massive move lists, unique stances, and matchup specific gimmicks, and even character specific pressure, and suddenly the game starts feeling impossible to fully understand unless you dedicate your entire life to it. I know players that have like 1,000 hours on Tekken and they still don't know some of the matchups or some of the moves that some characters have. This is why many Tekken players constantly talk about labbing, because if you don't lab characters, it genuinely feels like you're just walking into random knowledge checks constantly. And the biggest problem of that is there are so many characters now, and some being added too, that it becomes exhausting trying to learn everything, especially if you're a casual player coming in. You'll spend hours learning one matchup and then immediately fight a completely different character with another 100+ moves and weird stance transitions, and eventually your brain just melts. And I think this is why losing in Tekken feels more frustrating than a lot of other fighting games, if I want to connect it back to my other video, because in Tekken, losing often feels confusing. It's not just frustrating, it's also confusing. Sometimes you genuinely don't know what killed you or just what happened. You're trying to process strings, animations, mix-ups, heat pressure, wall carry, launchers, all at the same time. And by the time you finally understand what happened, the round is already over. That creates this exhausting feeling where every match feels mentally draining, especially online. And honestly, I think that's why Tekken players get so angry compared to a lot of other fighting game communities, because this game constantly makes people feel overwhelmed. Like, I don't play the game competitively at all, so I'm more chill about it, but I could see why people get so mad, because every time I play online, it sometimes puts me against somebody that I destroy. But if I do get destroyed, I'm just like, bro, what happened? Like, what am I supposed to do against this? Because I'm just blocking and blocking and blocking, and if I guess wrong, then boom, half my health bar is gone. But this is the craziest part in my opinion. I think that Tekken 8 is still really fun. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate the game at all, but I do think the modern direction of Tekken is making the game feel increasingly chaotic, because the developers clearly wanted, faster gameplay, more aggression, more exciting spectator moments, something like the MKX of Tekken. And from a viewer perspective, it absolutely worked. I think Tekken 8 is one of the more hype games to watch, but playing it, that's a completely different experience sometimes, because when you're actually the one getting trapped in non-stop pressure and forced into constant guesses, the game starts feeling mentally exhausting really quickly. And honestly, that's why so many players seemed burnt out already. If I go on my comment section of my other videos, I could see that a lot of players keep talking about this 50-50 pressure, these casino mechanics, and how, if they guess wrong, they're basically dead. And I just thought I'd make this a simple video for you guys, because I just want to highlight that issue that Tekken 8 is having right now, and it's just a little bit more than other fighting games. And again, I'm not saying Tekken 8 is bad. I actually think that the game does a lot of things really well, but at the same time, I completely understand why so many players feel overwhelmed by it right now, because modern Tekken sometimes feels less like careful adaptation and strategy like how usual Tekken is, and it feels more like survive the chaos, like it's some sort of challenge. And with the heat system, the massive roster, non-stop 50-50s, and constant pressure, I think that Tekken 8 genuinely might be the most mentally exhausting fighting games out right now. And honestly, that's why losing in this game feels so personal. But that's just my take on it. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you guys like Tekken 8? Do you guys like the constant 50-50s? To be honest, I like the Tekken 8 pace. I like how it's faster. I just don't like how it's very offensive focused. But let me know what you guys think down below. This is gonna be it for today's video, guys. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to join the Mr. Frosty Flames Legion. Thank you all for watching. Mr. Frosty Flames out. Ciao.